Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 13th, 2017.
2:05 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. Okay, my friends, we're going to continue to take your calls, 617-266-6868. However, it is my distinct honor and privilege to now be joined by Congressman Matt Gaetz, Florida Republican. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Hey, it's great to be on with the Bulldozer.
Congressman, so I just want to set it up for the audience. You have a bill, I've talked about it earlier this week, whereby it would end tax breaks and all kinds of taxpayer subsidies for the NFL. This is now just breaking on the wire. Roger Goodell has now come out, the NFL commissioner, and said he will not mandate NFL players to stand for the national anthem. They will not do it. So my question to you is this. What exactly does your bill, what will it do, and why do you think it's so important?
Well, the NFL league office has now embraced unpatriotic activity. I think that's pretty clear to most folks. This is an overgeneralized indictment when players kneel for the anthem because they're not speaking to any specific problem set. They're literally saying it is the country, it is our anthem, our symbols that aren't worthy of respect. And I think that that's deeply troubling. Today in the tax code, special treatment is given to all professional sports leagues, including the NFL, where they don't have to pay taxes. It's an exemption that remains on the books today. Some leagues claim it, some leagues don't. Sometimes they claim it some years and don't claim it other years, depending on their current public relations status. But the bottom line is that it's ridiculous to have some benefit for millionaires and billionaires that doesn't exist for just regular folks on Main Street. And when you've got the NFL league office now embracing this unpatriotic behavior, I think it's all the more reason to not create special treatment in the tax code for them.
Congressman, just for the listeners, in terms of concrete terms, how much has the NFL benefited over these tax breaks for so many years in terms of dollar amounts? And give us certain examples. Is it helping them build stadiums? Is it with infrastructure? How have they used our money to line their own pockets?
Well, if my bill were to become law, it would benefit the American taxpayer to the tune of $150 million. That is just based on the current exemptions being claimed. But the NFL league office coordinates all construction of stadiums, the payment of league personnel. And, Roger Goodell's a guy that's making $30 million a year, so this is not insignificant. But the stadiums you mentioned are actually financed 70% by the taxpayer. So for every 30 cents that the NFL league office or a team is putting in private capital, there are 70 cents being put in by the taxpayer.
Disgusting.
And that's corporate welfare.
That's disgusting.
Not a fair system for regular folks.
That's disgusting. When you say tax breaks, what kind of you mean
on revenue. I mean, if a small business in my district generates revenue, that revenue is taxed. When the NFL league office generates revenue, they can choose to claim an exemption or it is not taxed.
Oh, my God. So how much, are we talking, billions of dollars that they've been benefiting from this over the years?
Well, it's likely tens of millions. It's probably not billions from the tax exemption I want to eliminate because the teams themselves pay taxes, but the league, the institution that has embraced this unpatriotic behavior in the form of the league, actually doesn't have to do it. My friend and colleague Steve Russell from Oklahoma has also introduced legislation so that the tax-free bonds that finance the public payment of stadiums are not tax-free. That is another mechanism by which the tax code is used as a delivery system for corporate welfare for professional sports leagues. And it's not just the NFL, by the way. Other professional sports leagues benefit greatly from this, and it shows us how the regular American doesn't need a 70,000-page tax code. This is a tax code we've got today that is largely crafted by special interests and special people with special access to politicians and members of Congress. And that's why I'm really hopeful that we're successful with the president in ironing out this tax code and getting rid of so many of these special interest loopholes. And an easy place to start is the special interest loophole that pertains to the NFL and professional sports leagues.
We're talking with Congressman Matt Gaetz, Florida Republican. He has a very important bill that he is sponsoring that would end a lot of these tax breaks and exemptions for the NFL. Congressman, let me just play devil's advocate for you just for a second. I mean, I agree with you 1,000%, but just for the sake of argument, what do you say to the argument that the NFL is a private entity, a private organization, and that these players have a constitutional right to kneel or protest the national anthem or whatever it is, and that it's not up to Matt Gaetz or Donald Trump to tell them how to run their business, that they can decide for themselves whether they want to police their players' behavior or not, and you shouldn't take it out on them by taking away their tax-exempt status. What do you say to that argument?
I absolutely agree that NFL players have a right to protest, just like every American has a right to protest. I just think they should do it on their own time and on their own dime. And so if they want to, when they're not at work, when they're not engaged in this activity, want to do it, that's fine. Now, as for the league, if the league wants to say, hey, we want to embrace this protest, we think it should be okay for players to kneel for the anthem, that's absolutely their right to do. But then we as the taxpayers don't have to go and give them special treatment that we don't give somebody else. I mean, there are people who get special treatment in the tax code. Widows get special treatment. Veterans get special treatment. Some different groups in our government contracting get special treatment because some swamp creature of yesteryear decided there was some special social benefit to that. But to me, it's ludicrous to even make the argument that we would elevate the NFL above, the regular small businesses on Main Street in my district. That's what they don't have any right to.
Bingo. Absolutely. Bingo. Congressman, my audience is behind you very big on this. What's the bill, the name or the number of the bill?
It is the Pro Sports Act. If listeners wanted to contact their members of Congress and say, hey, get on board with the Pro Sports Act, that is the legislation that gets rid of these exemptions. And while we're in the business in the next several weeks of broad-based tax reform to lower rates for all Americans, we should finance the lowering of rates for regular folks, not by driving up our deficits, but by getting rid of some of the indefensible loopholes in the tax code that allow some connected people and special interests to not have to pay taxes. And this is just one example.
The Pro Sports Act. That's what it's called.
That's it, man.
Perfect. Okay. Hey, Matt, Congressman Gaetz, before I let you go, how's Jillian Lane doing, your communications director? I used to work with her when she was with Rand Paul's people. She was great with Rand. How's she doing?
She's wonderful. Jillian is a military spouse, and so she helps out our office, and we're eagerly awaiting the return of her husband, a Marine from his deployment, and she's just doing great. We're proud to just have our office associated with such a patriotic family. Congressman, you're doing great work. Keep it up, and we're definitely behind you. God bless you, Congressman. Thank you for coming on the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868. Okay, my friends, it's the Pro Sports Act. Call any member of Congress. Hey, you know what? Let's call the chief. Huh? Come on now. Let's call the chief. Let's call Markey. Let's call every single one of them. Congressman Capuano, Congressman Kennedy, every single one of them. And say, this really helps the little guy. This really helps the little guy. Take out the loopholes and benefits for these billionaires and millionaires.
Can I just text him instead of calling?
617-266-6868. Okay, so unbelievable proposal by Kim Driscoll. It's mayor of Salem. By the way, it's now seen as a pilot program for other Democratic cities across Massachusetts. As you know, Salem has a huge panhandling problem. How do they propose to fix it? There's a new initiative called Change It, whereby you're going to see it in Salem, signs everywhere. They won't want you to give the money directly to the panhandlers. No. They want you to text the money. They have a Salem, I think it's 50555, and you text $5, $10, $20, and they will then, the city will take the money. Basically, they're creating a slush fund for themselves. Call it the Driscoll Foundation. And then they're going to use that money, they say, to then do what's best for the panhandlers. So either put them into the LifeBridge homeless shelter or whatever it is, that you give them soup or give them some food or whatever. They say, we don't want you to give the panhandlers money. Give it to us, and then we'll take care of the panhandlers. So they're even getting in on the action, the money for the panhandlers. 617-266-6868 is the number. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? And they've even roped in local businesses. So businesses now are going to have a Change It decal in Salem, and you just show them an email receipt or a text saying, hey, look, I just get, you got to, by the way, it's got to be minimum $5. It's got to be at least a $5 donation. And then you can get a discount at one of these local restaurants. 617-266-6868. Anthony in New Hampshire, you're up first. Go ahead, Anthony.
I am a panhandler, and I want to sign up for some of that free money. How do they prove who's eligible for this benefit? And, technically they're homeless, so are they going to allow the surrounding panhandlers to be eligible for this benefit? I know Salem's one of those illegal immigrant communities, too. So now they're going to have to spread it amongst the world's community, too, no?
Anthony, that is a brilliant point. I guess, Anthony, if you want some of the money, just go on down to Salem and pitch a tent.
No, I'm just going to take a picture with my sign in front of one of the witch statues and say, this means that I'm eligible for the money. I know that sometimes the news channels will follow some of the panhandlers home, and they happen to be multimillionaires and stuff. So there can't be an income requirement either.
617-266-6868. Brittany, I'm just thinking, hey, come on. You got to get in on some of this action, Brittany.
I was thinking that earlier before the show. I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to get a sign. Who wants to pay my student loans? And just stand outside of McDonald's.
Well, no, now we can text you the donation.
See? This is great. I'm going to sign up for this later.
John, you're up next. Go ahead, John.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. How are you, John?
Very good. First of all, I wouldn't give any government organization money to be distributed because I don't trust them. I don't believe that, like you said, they would take a good portion of it and give the panhandlers piddles. But in regards to the panhandlers, I'm in my truck. I work all day, and I drive around, and I do see them. And I agree that a good portion of them, more than 80%, are drug addicted and have mental illness. But I think there are a certain few that have run on hard times and, looking for something. Now, a lot of them hold signs that say homeless and hungry. Now, what I will do to see if they're drug addicted or not is I'll offer them, listen, are you hungry? And they'll say, give me some money. And I say, well, no, I won't, but I will take you over to the Wendy's across the street and buy you a sandwich. And if they say yes, they eat it. But if they say no, then you know that they're full of baloney. You know what I'm saying?
John, listen, I really want to commend you, and thank you for that call, because there are some who genuinely have hit hard times, and really my heart really does bleed for them. I really do. And also, I'll tell you what I did once, just to show you, though, even that I've done that. I have done that. More in Washington, D.C. than I have here, where I would literally buy them a sandwich. They'd say they're hungry, and I'd say, look, here's a sandwich, a ham and Swiss sandwich or whatever. And a lot of times I was told to blank off, but a few times somebody did take it and eat it, so I knew at least they were genuinely hungry. However, there was one time I was at a McDonald's. This was in Washington, D.C. I was at a McDonald's more late at night. It was near where I worked at the Washington Times. So it's kind of a bit of a bad crowd at night. Anyway, I'm eating my Big Mac, minding my own business, and a panhandler walked up to me and said, could you give me some money for food? And so I said, no, but what I will do is buy you a meal of your choice. So we went up to the counter, and I said, what do you want? Like, you want a number one, whatever, the Big Mac with, and he said, sure. And I said, large French fry, large drink, yes. So I paid with my debit card, and then I went back to eat. When the food came out fresh, he returned it and said, no, just give me my money back. So even then, when you take them, they're going to say yes. You buy them the meal, they return the meal, and then ask for the money to go buy drugs. So that's why if you're going to give it to them, buy it for them. Just say literally, what do you want? Okay, you want a sandwich? I'll get you a sandwich. I'll be right back. Otherwise, they can even shaft you then. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me ask you this. It's the Kuhner Country Poll question of the day, sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. Do you think it's a good idea to text donations to the city government, in this case Salem, who will then give it to panhandlers? In other words, they become the middleman. If you believe the answer is yes, text the letter A, 680-680. If, like me, this is absolutely insane, text the letter B to 680-680. As always, you can vote online at WRKO.com. More with your calls and poll results next. 2:25 here on the great WRKO. Okay. Pilot program now in Salem being pushed by uber liberal Mayor Kim Driscoll. I think it's nothing more than a cheap election ploy, but let that go. Is it a good idea to text donations to the city government, in this case Salem, who will then give the money to panhandlers? In other words, they don't want you giving to panhandlers. They want you to text it to the government, and then they will give the money, allegedly, to panhandlers. If you believe the answer is yes, text the letter A to 680-680. If you believe, like me, this is creating a slush fund, you're lucky if a 5 cents on the dollar makes it to those panhandlers. Text the letter B to 680-680. You can vote online at WRKO.com, sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. Brittany, what are the results thus far?
95% no, 5% yes.
And I take it you're a big yes on this one.
I'm a yes?
An enthusiastic yes.
I am?
You love this idea.
Oh, I love it, Jeff. It's such another brilliant idea from Kim Driscoll.
Michael in Framingham. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm well, thank you. Hey, first off, congrats on being a U.S. citizen.
Oh, thank you. It's been a while, but it's good. Thank you, Michael. I'm happy.
I know it has. We need more guys like you, by the way.
Thank you.
This business up in Salem, you know what this is? Obviously, it's a money grab by Kim Driscoll and her goons. And you know what? It's really a takeoff on another single-payer system, isn't it?
How do you mean on that? How do you mean that? Well, it's interesting. Elaborate.
Well, because they're not, they won't, and they probably don't need to even validate where that money is going. So instead of having money being dispersed all through the streets of Salem, why not just centralize it into the Salem government, and then they get to supposedly decide who and where it goes to.
Bingo.
And you know what made me laugh is leave it to the liberal Democrats to take the privatization out of panhandling.
No, touche. Michael, honestly, touche. Say what you want. Look, in all honesty, right? You see him meet a panhandler, and you go, well, this one's really putting a lot of effort into this. Whatever. Colorful, they're really asking for the money in a certain way. Whatever, you go, you know what, all right, you earned it. Say what you want. You're kind of like almost an entrepreneur. All right, here's a few bucks, whatever. No, you're right. They gotta nationalize even that. They gotta centralize even that. It's just incredible. So what's next? We're going to start a union now? I mean, that's what I would do if I'm the panhandlers. I mean, at this point, I'd say, hey, well, we want to raise. You're not giving us enough this year. Annie in Chelsea. Go ahead, Annie.
Hello?
Annie, how are you?
Oh, I love you in a non-sexual way.
What's on your mind, Annie?
Oh, I'm just recovering from a car accident. That's why I haven't been calling in. But today, I was listening to you and about this panhandler situation. Now, doesn't this money become revenue? And who's going to pay the taxes on this money?
Annie, I didn't even think about that.
Well, being a retiree, I have to count every single penny I have.
Well, Annie, hold on now. Maybe you should relocate to Salem and claim you're homeless. You can get a nice chunk of that action.
That's not bad. But I was just curious. I mean, now, do they have to, the IRS is, maybe Trump can form another job for the IRS since he's determined to get them out of the business. And maybe they can hunt out the homeless guys to have them fill out their taxes.
Thank you for that call, Annie. Bobby in Newton. Let's go, Bobby.
Hi, Jeff. Brittany, Jarrett, and I, we have formed our own union for panhandlers down in Salem. And we're going to start charging $5 dues each month to be a part of it.
Yes. You see what I mean? This is how the Democrats roll. Okay, my friends, coming up next, let me ask you this. Should you be compelled to vaccinate your child, to give your child all of his or her vaccines? And if you don't, should you go to prison, to jail? That story after this short news break. Let's take it to Evan in the newsroom. 2:35 here on the great WRKO. Okay, let me ask you, should you be compelled to vaccinate your children, coerced? And if you don't, should you end up going to jail over it? This is not an academic question. This is exactly what is now taking place in Michigan, and it's now causing a huge national debate. 617-266-6868. Let me provide the context. Here's the context to the story. This is up in Oakland County, up in Michigan. According to the Detroit Free Press, here is exactly what took place. Rebecca Bredow, hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, a Michigan mother, has been engaged in a long, bitter custody fight with her former husband. He's now her ex-husband. They both have a 9-year-old son, the boy's biological father, James Horn. The mother did not want the boy to get all of his vaccinations. The father, James Horn, as I mentioned, wanted the boy to get all of his vaccinations. All of them. And so they went to court. A judge ruled that the father was correct, that the father, his rights essentially superseded those of the mother, and that the boy should now get all of his vaccinations. The mother refused to comply, saying, this is my son, I have rights as a mother, I don't want him to get all of these vaccines at this time, it's going to be too much, I want an exemption. She was not given an exemption. And so the judge then said if she doesn't comply, she will go to jail. She did not comply within 7 days, and so she was then declared in contempt of court, and then she was sent to prison. She has spent 5 days in prison. During those 5 days in prison, she has now just found out that her son has been fully vaccinated against her wishes. And so now she feels that A, she was wrongly imprisoned, and B, essentially with the biological father, the state has now taken over and vaccinated her son against her wishes. She says this is an assault on parental authority. This is an assault on the family. This is an assault on her rights as a mother. And so my question to you is this. Should she be compelled to vaccinate her son? And if you don't, should you then have to go to jail over it? 617-266-6868 is the number. We're now joined, as we usually are at this time. He is the sponsor of the Kuhner Report. I love this guy in a non-sexual way. The CEO and president of Bill Kelly Financial Services, Bill Kelly himself. Bill, buddy, how are you?
Great, Jeff. How you doing?
Can't complain. Life is good, my friend. Looking forward to the weekend. Grace is going to be going out a little bit with Brittany and I think a couple of other people. So they're going to have a girls' night out. So I have Ashton and Ava tonight. So I'm going to do a little babysitting. How are things on your end?
Pretty good, Jeff. I mean, we got another medical kidnapping, it looks like, Jeff, on our hands, right?
Well, you know, Bill, I'm just curious. Where do you stand on this issue of vaccinations?
It's up to the parents, I think, but we didn't have a choice. The guy came to school with a gun. We got in line. We were real happy when they invented the guns because basically you were going to get the needle, and then and the janitor stood there with the magic green powder, Jeff. That was for what you might call vomit. So we got our shots. We vomited. Uncle Jesse, the janitor, came in with the green magic powder, threw it on the vomit, and off it went. So we didn't have much of a choice back then, Jeff. You know.
Now, Bill, if you don't mind me asking, and if I'm getting too personal, please let me know, my friend. You've got a wonderful girl, Mary Madeline, and you've got a wonderful boy, Junior, William Jr. Have they both been vaccinated?
They have, and William got sick from his. I think Kurt Schilling said he didn't like the idea of it, and we have some close friends who are in the medical profession. They said do it. There's a lot of new stuff hanging. I'm 50-50. Kelly's in charge, so I don't want to get in trouble. So I let her be in charge of that. And everybody's healthy so far, but some kids have terrible reactions to it. And if they have an egg allergy or certain allergies, then they can go into a fit, and they can have some serious medical some pretty major problems, Jeff. So you have to be vigilant, as with everything, right?
So now I'm just curious. So you're basically on the fence. You're 50-50. I take it Kelly, your wife, is probably for vaccination. So basically you defer to your wife. But your position is, Bill, let me ask you this. But here you have this Michigan case. It's a unique case. You've got the biological father who says, I want it. You've got they're separated. They're divorced. The biological mother says, I don't want it. They fight it out in court. The judge sides with the father, and they give a date. The mother doesn't fulfill the vaccinations by the date appointed by the court. She's held in contempt. She's sent to jail for 5 days. Then while she's in jail, they take her son and get the child vaccinated. I mean, my question is this. A, why send somebody to prison? I mean, that seems to me really extreme over the issue of vaccination, number one. And number two, shouldn't you have at least some buy-in from the biological mother before you pump the kid up with vaccines?
It is a part. It has not a lot to do with vaccinations, but the government is trying to get rid of God, get rid of the family unit. They're trying to get rid of any type of control. They want you to look for the government for guidance. They want you to look for the government to tell you what to eat. They want to look to the government to tell you who your doctor is. They want you to look to the government for your heat, everything. They want you to look to the government, and that's going to be the authority, just like it's 1984, Jeff. It's not 2017. It's a mess, and this is just a way of doing that. I don't think it has a lot to do with vaccinations. I don't think the tax system has a lot to do with collecting money. It's population control. I don't think the EPA has a lot to do with pollution. It's population. It's control of you and I and people that want to build things. So it's control, and they're making it tighter and tighter and tighter, and the noose is tightening. And if we don't do something about it, our entire lives will be under the control of the people across the Potomac, Jeff.
Bill, as somebody who you're a financial advisor, frankly, an extremely good one. You know a lot about big pharma. You know a lot about the markets. Is the vaccination business? I mean, I'm just curious. Is this a big business for big pharma?
It's huge. I don't want to mention any names, Jeff. It's billions and billions of dollars, and it's shipped to Europe. They had a bad shipment of vaccination that was actually active cultures. I don't want to name the company that sent them over to Europe. It was a disaster. It's not big pharma. It's the biggest pharma, Jeff. It's amazing what happened.
Oh, I didn't know that. So it's the biggest of big pharma.
It is. It's billions. A billion people need a vaccination, Jeff. I mean, 100,000 need asthma medication and 5,000 need MS medication, but everybody needs a vaccination. So think about that, Jeff.
Wow. So, Bill, if you were the judge in the case, I'm just curious, you're no longer Bill Kelly, CEO, president of Bill Kelly Financial Services. You're now Judge Kelly in Michigan. How would you have ruled in this case?
I would rule for the parent who had custody of the child, which I think was the mom in that case. And the reason the court originally gave her custody was for the welfare of the child. And it could have been a wedge issue with the father. It could have been a political issue with the court. But the mom had the custody, so it was basically a medical kidnapping to get her out of the way for a few days, vaccinate the child against her will. And welcome to the United States, Jeff.
Bill, you know what? I think you nailed it. I really do. I think you absolutely nailed it. Bill, buddy, before I let you go, I know you've got events across Massachusetts, sometimes in New Hampshire. Are you doing anything at the Tuscan Kitchen, at Cafe Escadrille, where people can come and talk to you about their retirement nest egg? Is there anything going on?
Something's going on big, Jeff. The end of the year, our High Net Worth Holiday Fest, Jeff, which I think you'll be speaking, giving the keynote there, State of the Nation. But we'll have the 67 Red Sox members, Rico Petrocelli, Bob Montgomery, Jim Lomborg. We'll have Social Security experts. We'll have Jeff Kuhner. Hopefully we'll have the Kuhner family. We're going to have Frosty, Santa, the Patriot cheerleaders, and I hope the one and only Jeff Kuhner.
Oh, wow. That's going to be on November 25th?
Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'll be there, buddy.
800.
I will definitely be there. If you want to join us, please. It's going to be an incredible event. 888-800-1881. Call 888-800-1881. Bill, buddy, again, thanks for all your support. And really, honestly, I thought you hit the nail on the head today. Have a great weekend, my friend.
You too. God bless.
Take care. God bless, my friend. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me throw one more log on the fire, and then I want to hear from you. So, Michigan is one of 17 states, this is just so you know the full facts, that have exemptions on the books regarding vaccinations. So Michigan is one of 17 states that does grant exemptions on medical grounds, religious grounds, or philosophical grounds. So this is what the mother is arguing, Rebecca Bredow, saying, look, I have religious exemption grounds. For religious reasons, I don't want my child to be vaccinated. And frankly, philosophical reasons. Now, Trump himself, President Trump, has been a critic of these vaccinations. Not that he's against them, but he wants them staggered. He thinks we're giving too much too quickly in a concentrated dose, and he thinks there could be some serious health side effects from this, and he would rather it be spread out, and so he wants to have more parental authority and control over the issue. And so this is exactly the mother's claim as well. She, at least what she told the judge was, it's not that I'm against vaccinations per se, but I don't want it all done at once. I want to stagger them, schedule them over a longer period of time because I'm worried about some of the potential health consequences. My position is this, and then you can agree or disagree. 617-266-6868. I was vaccinated. My sister and I got all of our vaccinations. Ashton is fully vaccinated. Ava is fully vaccinated. So we chose vaccination. I generally think I'd rather err on the side of caution, better safe than sorry. So my own position is I take the vaccinations, my kids have the vaccinations. However, I think what you don't do is you don't throw a parent in jail, for God's sakes, because she refuses to vaccinate her child. This is not North Korea. This is not communist China. This is not the old Soviet Union. And I also don't think you vaccinate the child while the biological mother, the parent, is in jail behind her back. You just don't do that. And so to me, this borders on a medical kidnapping. This is an assault on the rights of the mother, the assault on the parental authority of that family. And to me, the judge had no business throwing her in the slammer. 617-266-6868. Should parents be compelled against their will to vaccinate their children? And if one of them doesn't agree to it, should that result in a jail sentence? 617-266-6868. Your reaction next. 2:53 here on the great WRKO. By the way, you can text us 680-680, and there's some really good texts. Kuhner country is divided on this one, and I'm not surprised because it's a very complicated and frankly contentious issue. This is from 508. Sorry, Jeff, I usually agree with you, but I've always thought the father had just as much say as the mother, assuming he isn't a deadbeat. So if the courts rule in the father's favor that the kid, the boy in this case, should have all of his vaccines, I don't think the mother should go to jail, but she has to follow the court's ruling. Let me just throw another quick log on the fire. You're also talking about potentially other children's health. The boy does go to school. The boy is not homeschooled. So one of the arguments is, well, hold on. It's fine. Parental authority, parental rights, parental choice. That's all good and fine. But you're talking about a son who, a boy in this case, who, if doesn't get all of his vaccines, could potentially pose a risk to other students in the classroom. And frankly, that's the argument the father made, the biological father. That's the argument the judge eventually went on when she ordered the mother to have the vaccinations. She was held in contempt after she didn't do it after 5 days, and then threw her in the slammer. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Sean in Lowell. Go ahead, Sean.
Listen, the woman should not have gone to jail because she had custody. That's my feeling of it.
Well, it's now 50-50, just so that you know, Sean. It's now 50-50, literally 50-50 now between her and the biological father.
Okay, thankfully, in Massachusetts, we have all three exemptions available. Right now, I have a 10-year-old son. We don't get him vaccinated anymore. He had a vaccine injury from the MMR vaccine. Thankfully, he recovered. But I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You are not legally able to sue pharmaceutical companies if your child has a severe vaccine injury.
Oh, really?
You have to go before, there's a special court that was set up, and they award you some money. You cannot sue them.
I didn't know that. Sean, that's a very interesting piece of information.
And another thing, we've had some measles and mumps outbreaks in Massachusetts in recent years. The kids that are getting the measles and mumps are the kids that have been vaccinated. The kids that are not vaccinated are not getting it. What does that tell you? Interesting.
Thank you for that call, Sean. My guess would also be, I mean, I know this, I have read this in multiple publications and media outlets, and there have been actually reports from the federal government. Some of these illegal immigrants are bringing in all kinds of diseases, measles, mumps, the chicken pox. So a lot of this is also coming from the illegal immigrant community, to be fair. Freddie in Beverly. Go ahead, Freddie.
Thanks for taking my call. The last caller stole a little of my thunder, but I still got plenty.
Go.
The vaccine business is a huge profit-making business. By 2020, it's expected to gather $61 billion in profits. As far as vaccine court is concerned, it's a secret court where the U.S. government created a specific court in 1986 to protect pharmaceutical companies because they were getting too many lawsuits that were rising due to the preponderance of illnesses and injuries that were stemming from the company's vaccine products. So they went to the government and said, we're not going to make these vaccines anymore unless you protect us. So they labeled vaccines unavoidably unsafe, and so that meant that the pharmaceutical companies were not responsible for damages. And so the vaccine court has paid out $3.7 billion in damages to families so far that I'm aware of. And because the pharmaceutical companies are not held responsible, that money comes from us, the taxpayers.
Freddie, great call. Here's what I find stunning, okay? So let me get this straight. They can't be sued, Big Pharma, on vaccinations, but potentially we can go to court and jail? I mean, where's the justice? Now, I know what the argument is that many liberals are making. Well, Jeff, she was in contempt of court. She defied the judge. Okay, even if you're held in contempt of court, doesn't mean you got to send her to jail, for God's sakes. You know, you could send a fine, whatever. But, you know, you don't have to put her in the freaking slammer for 5 days or 7 days or whatever it was. And what you certainly don't do is, against her wishes, I know it was the father's wishes, and that's important, don't get me wrong. But against her wishes, then you have the child vaccinated? While you've thrown her in jail? Come on. Not in my America. Not in my America. You say what you want. The father has rights, but the mother has rights too. Mark in Weymouth. Go ahead, Mark.
How you doing, Jim?
I'm good. Mark, I've got 1 minute. Go.
Yeah, my quick thing about it is I had a nephew that got vaccinated, all shots at once, and we thought for 4 years that he had autism. So pretty much my thought is she shouldn't have went to the slammer. She does have the rights, and he shouldn't have gotten vaccinated until at least she got out of those 5 days where she could have been there as a parent.
Well, Mark, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, come on. I mean, it's her son. She didn't want him vaccinated. There's many ways you could have handled it, but what you don't do, and I think Bill Kelly hit it, this was a medical kidnapping, and they threw her in jail and then said, okay, the mother's in jail, now go vaccinate the kid. I mean, come on. I mean, what are we, in communist China? Okay, Brittany.
Let me guess.
Where did the 3 hours go?
Let me guess. You need another hour.
I need another hour. Everybody, have a wonderful, blessed weekend. See you all on Monday.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 3 o'clock.